Welcome to the New Shooter 101 Instructors Clinic. Thank you so much for watching. Our purpose in presenting this is to provide a place where firearms instructors can exchange ideas about training beginners in defensive handgun skills.
Go! Lights off. Back down. Same exercise. Go!
So today we're talking with Jeff Bickford, Jeff Beeman, and Wu Chin. Thanks so much for joining us today. They're all firearms instructors with ADTA. And ADTA is the Armed Defense Training Association. It's a nonprofit near Seattle, Washington, now in its 11th year. Jeff Bickford is a lead instructor for ADTA. Wu is their training director, and Jeff Beeman is also an instructor. Today we're going to talk about teaching tactical flashlight training. We're going to show you two videos. The first is a dry fire workshop, and the second one is going to be a live fire practice. In just a moment, we're going to play these videos, and our participants here today are going to provide commentary. They're going to talk about what skills the trainees learned and give you some tips about the methods that they used. So we're going to start off showing you the video from our dry fire workshop. Jeff, would you like to say something to introduce this video?
Yeah, sure. So you're going to see Randy and Jeff here go through this. Jeff Beeman is going to be demonstrating as Randy's referring to his notes. He's got an outline that he's working off of here. Much of the detail is pretty self-explanatory, so I'll leave that to the video. One thing I want to point out that is important for any instructor doing a dry fire class like this is that you ensure there's no live ammo or real firearms in the area where you're doing these demonstrations. It's a major safety aspect that we instill. In this case, you'll see the use of a laser training pistol. So with that, let's go ahead and roll the video.
Obviously, the objective in learning to use a tactical flashlight is because darkness provides great cover for the bad guys that are trying to create problems for us, and we'll need a flashlight to be able to clearly identify the target and identify the threat. So we're going to use two methods, and the objective in practicing this skill is so that you eliminate your target quickly and you're able to get accurate hits on the target. And the secondary effect is it may temporarily blind the person trying to cause you problems. So it'll mess up their plan while enhancing your ability to protect yourself. So first we're going to go through how the flashlight works. So Jeff, if you want to grab your flashlight. And with these tactical flashlights, we found a very effective way to hold them is like an ice pick. You just got to wrap your four fingers around it, your thumb on top, and you hold it close to your chest. But by depressing the button on the back part way, it'll temporarily activate the light. As soon as you release your thumb, the light goes out. And some of these lights are adjustable. You can use bright, dim, or strobe, or some other weird setting. It's best if you're using it for a tactical light to eliminate threats is that first press should be the brightest setting. You probably want to set it up that way.
Okay, so that was a good introduction there. Randy did a good job of explaining exactly what we're doing and why. One of the points that he sort of led into without adding too much detail that any instructor should be aware of and ready to answer is the different functions or different types of lights. Not all of them have the button on the back. That's really the best type for these types of holds that we're going to see. Also, we mentioned the strobe and the brightness settings. Obviously, the reason you want it at the brightest setting is that it's going to have the best impact for blinding your assailant that's coming after you. Also, the strobe setting, that's something that a lot of these lights have. But personally, it's not something that I recommend. While it may be, confusing for the bad guy that's coming at you, it can also be, somewhat distracting for you when you're trying to concentrate on getting out of the way or aiming your gun at them. So be ready to answer those questions because the students will likely be asking about them. All right, let's go ahead and roll to the next spot.
The first method we're going to learn is called the Harry's method. And lo and behold, this is a 5-step process. So the Harry's method is where you kind of lock your hands together. So what you do in the Harry's method is go ahead and get your pistol out at the ready. And then you bring, the first step is to bring your flashlight hand underneath your gun hand and lock your wrists together. You're using isometric tension to kind of hold them together. And then
Yeah,
There you
go
go.
ahead. Go ahead and use your finger gun when you practice with your. There.
And then step 2 is, as you keep those wrists locked together, keep your finger indexed and extend out towards the target, towards the threat. And you'll see Jeff, he's got the pistol down because he hasn't activated the light yet, so he hasn't clearly identified the threat or the target. You want to make sure that you light your target and clearly identify your threat before you point a pistol at it. So he's actually at a low ready, pointing down at the ground in front of the threat.
But with that, you can still rotate your flashlight up.
That's correct, yeah. And then on step 3, once you're extended, you do activate your flashlight, you rotate your wrist up and you illuminate the threat. Step 4, you aim, take your shot. Step 5, you deactivate the flashlight by letting go with your thumb. And while keeping your wrists locked together, you bring the gun back to the ready position.
Okay, so that was a pretty good demonstration of the Harry's method. Randy mentioned that isometric tension there. Really, a little better explanation of that is it's kind of an opposite hold of what you normally do on a two-handed grip. Since you don't have a full two-hand grip, in this case, it's really only like 1.5 hands. Instead of a conventional grip where you're pushing forward with a gun and pulling back with your support hand, this is the opposite. You've got those hands locked, and you're pulling back with the gun hand and pushing forward with a support hand to make sure they lock in place. So anytime you're going to use a term like that, maybe everybody's not going to know what it means. Be ready to describe that in a little better detail. Jeff, you were walking through this. Do you want to add any other important points on that drill?
The only thing with the Harry's is that people have a tendency to muzzle what's ever in front of their gun. And so you need to be aware that when you have that gun pointed out in front of you, that you're not sweeping innocent bystanders in that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You really do have independent control. I mean, they're somewhat restricted, but you can aim the light and the gun separately. And one of the important rules is don't point the gun at anything until you've identified it as a threat and you're willing to destroy it. Wu, do you have any points to add to that?
Had to unmute myself. Sorry, guys. No, one of the things with the Harry's method is the fact that a lot of people have a tendency to use the support hand as a shelf instead of dropping the elbow down so you can actually, do the tension up here with the wrist to wrist. That's the only thing. When you're teaching, make sure that the people are not using this support hand as a shelf for that and not getting the tension that they need to have.
Okay. All right. So I think at this point, I think we're going to transition to the next one. So let's go ahead and start the video again.
Okay. So you want to go through that one more time for him? Just kind of the smooth progression of steps. Okay, step 1. Move the flashlight underneath. Step 2, lock your wrists and extend. Step 3, illuminate the target. Step 4, take your shot. Step 5, deactivate. and pull your hands back to the low ready, keeping the wrists locked together. Now there's a critical safety point to keep in mind, and it's the order of bringing your hands out and together. Where you notice where we always have Jeff start with the gun out in the ready and then bring the flashlight under it. You really want to avoid bringing that flashlight hand out first, and then you end up sweeping your wrist. Go ahead and show them that. If you bring your flashlight out first, you end up sweeping your wrist, your arms, you may hurt yourself. And that's obviously something you'd like to avoid.
Yeah, okay, so we kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but there was another big safety bit that Randy went through in pretty good detail there. Obviously what you want to instill upon folks is that you never want to put that hand in front of the gun. So by doing it the way Jeff demonstrated, you ensure that your hand is always behind the gun or under. Okay, I think now we'll go into the next method, and let's go ahead and roll it from there.
Now, the second method is called the FBI method, and this is where we don't use the hands together, we keep them separated. So, gosh, 5 steps, what do you know? This works great. It's easy to count, don't have to worry about more than these 5 fingers. All right, so start again with the pistol in the ready position. And then step 1 is to take your flashlight hand, which is held at your chest in a kind of an ice pick grip to start with. That's again a safety position for your hand, so when your gun's out in the ready position, you're not going to sweep the flashlight hand. Okay, raise your flashlight hand up and then out for step 1. Step 2, illuminate your threat, and you may need to rotate your wrist a little bit in order to actually put the light on the threat. Step 3, aim the gun and take your shot. Step 4, flashlight back to your chest. Deactivate and bring it back to your chest. And step 5 is you bring the gun back to the ready position. You want to go through that one real quick too? Nice smooth flow. I'm just going to count and have you go through it. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and step 5.
All right, so Jeff, I'll let you jump in here and dissect this one a little bit.
So I talked to my shooting consultant today, and he was telling me that when he was training, one of the things that he did is after they illuminated the subject, they would release their light and get off the X and then reilluminate and do their shooting. And
okay, that's pretty interesting. I'd never thought of it doing it that way, but yeah, that definitely, it kind of leads into another detail when we contrast the two methods here. The reason why we do the Harry's method, it's a good position for control. You have a better support with your hand. However, the conventional thought is that the first thing that the bad guy is going to shoot at is whatever he sees, and that's the light. So that's probably going to be where he's aiming. That's a benefit of the FBI method in that's why the FBI trains that way, is you're moving the light away from your body. If the scumbag is shooting at whatever he sees, there's no vital organs in that area. Yeah, he may hit your hand, but it's better than a center of mass. That's a good point you made there about you light it up, move. That could apply with either method. He's still going to be probably concentrating on the place where the light was before.
One of the other things he stressed was make sure as you illuminate, make sure and hit him in the eyes, so that when you're moved, you disorient your attacker.
Right. And this method, again, you want to pass along that it does give you, they're different methods. They have kind of their pros and cons. It does separate the potential target from your center of mass. Um, it also has a little more freedom. You know, your hands are independent. You're not locked there. Well, on the downside, you're working with a single hand grip, so you may not be as accurate that way.
Can I jump in here just a little
Yeah,
bit?
please.
Yeah, the other thing too, you got to recognize that there are limitations on certain people's range of motion, etc. So the FBI hole is there's really high up. Sometimes you're not able to because of the shoulder rotation and such. There is the kind of a neck index hole as well, which is the same thing. Basically, come underneath for the Harries. So I just kind of mentioned the fact that as an instructor, you need to identify people's physical ability and be able to adapt the techniques to them.
So now we're going to show you the live fire video where they put those skills that they learned to use to actual practice. And Wu, would you like to say anything to introduce this video?
Yeah, thank you. What you're seeing in this video is Chad Hyatt, who's one of the founding members of the ADTA. He's taking the people through dry fire exercise using the Harris method. I think the video itself is self-explanatory. But what we're doing here is basically 3 segments. The first segment being dry fire. People are just getting used to the weapon and the flashlight. And then later on, we'll go into dark. So they'll actually be using the flashlight and shooting. So it'll be silhouettes, targets, and then there's another segment where we will be using command targets and using the light to identify the targets that's called out. So those are the 3 exercises that we'll be doing. One of the things I do want to bring out is like Ed was mentioning, when we start teaching these drills or skills, we start them off at the dry practice so that they get that under their command. The other thing is that as ADTA, we have what we call safe shooter certification. They really have to go through all the exercises on dry fire and also shooting on the lanes, get those certification before they can come to a live fire that you're going to be seeing. Okay, so Ed, go ahead and run it.
With your gun down at low ready position and the flashlight locked, you can rotate the flashlight up so that you can actually search. Notice the gun is still pointed down here at low ready. Okay? I can search. I can look all around. I can turn the flashlight on and off, and I can still search. When I see something I need to hit, I can just transition up and rotate. Notice when I rotate, I'm getting that same lock that I always get. Okay? The same lock that we were having you practice before works in this transition right here, and I can apply that same tension, relax the tension. Just apply it, relax it. Get your sight picture. Feel that rotation on your wrist as things lock in. You should be able to push forward your support hand, pull back with your firing hand, and have that tension. Drop back down to low ready. Point the flashlights back up at the target. Bring it back up, get a sight picture. Yes, you really are aiming 2 things at the same time. Back down to low ready. Turn the flashlights off. Up! Go!
Okay, we're transitioning now to low light shooting. We have an opportunity to shut off all the lights or just shut off the lights up front and dim the ones in the back. So now we transition into here after the dry fire practice that you saw earlier. And now we're going to live fire. And we first start off with silhouettes, large targets, so that people have an opportunity to use those techniques. So that's Jeff, you have something to toss in here?
Yeah, Chad made a comment there that you really are aiming 2 things at once, and that's something that when I first learned this, I found that I had to really practice several times to get the concept down. It's important that you shine the light to find your target, whether you're shining at the floor or shining it directly at the target with your gun, not pointed at it. You raise the gun up and use your sights. There's a tendency for some people, I know I had that case, is I've illuminated it, I'm going to shoot, but in fact, I was looking at the light and not at my sights, and yeah, the bullet did not go where it was intended. So that's something that you really want to instill on the participants of this drill is still got to make sure you use your sights.
Lights off. Back down. Same exercise. Go!
What we're going to be seeing here is our third segment here using command targets. You're going to see in the video that there's some barricades, side barricades to kind of minimize light pollution, light spilling from your neighbor, so that you're actually going to have to use your flashlight to identify the targets. Now, the command targets, they have colors, shapes, and numbers. If a color is call and there's two of those targets, you're going to be shooting those. As instructors are concerned, what we're looking at here is the making sure that they identify the target and shoot the targets that they are called. Some of the people may be colorblind or whatever it might be. We're going to have to accommodate those as well. So make sure you identify those people, who have issues. Okay. Jeff, you have some comments to make?
Yeah, for those of us that are colorblind, the struggle is real. Um, yeah, as you're watching the video, pay very close attention to where people's lights are pointing and where their guns are pointing and when. As we go through it a couple of times, you'll pick up that the sequence of getting them illuminating the target and raising the gun are not necessarily as separated as they should be. So let's go ahead and roll it from there.
Circle! Three! Six! Red!
Okay, thanks, Ed. One of the things we should note, the fact that because we do have targets that people keep shooting at, and they might kind of remember the targets and where they are. So every time you call out a number or shape, they remember it. So we rotate them around. You notice in this picture here that the targets are different. There's 3 different versions of the command targets. Anything to add there, Jeff?
No, that's a good point. And what's really cruel on some of those is that they don't have certain numbers. So something may be called, and they need to really understand that they illuminate and determine whether or not that perceived threat is there or not. It's not always obvious.
Yeah, so that's a no-shoot situation.
Right.
So kind of toss that in. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes when I was leading this, I would actually call out a wrong number that wasn't even on the target, just to get them to look before they shoot.
Yeah, and for those those instructors that want to be exceptionally cruel, you could have them do math with the numbers as well.
We have done that. Just to challenge the shooters.
So guys, you have any final thoughts you want to add at this point?
Well, I do have one. With the command targets, the way they're set up, so you don't have you have the barrier, so you don't get to see the next target. You can actually add movement here. You can have people go from one target to the next, do like a conveyor belt, and that way they have a chance to shoot different targets, but at the same time, it's only what you call out. Let's say you call red, and they have to shoot the red on target 1, move over to target 2, do the same thing, target 3, the same. So that way, they're really actually illuminating and recognizing the target before they take it on. Anybody else?
Yeah, so for instructors that are trying this out and using someone else's range, make sure you clear it with the RSOs first that you're going to be turning off the lights. You don't want that to be a surprise.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is just have them start out by just using their flashlight only, and then incorporate the gun. So because a lot of people just don't practice with their flashlights, and so they need to be familiar with their controls.
Mhm.
What's really the issue here is the FBI hole, because a lot of times they're aiming the light at the wrong place, and
Mm-hmm.
until they do it sufficiently, it's like point shooting. You got to be able to point that light where you need to go.
Yeah.
Got anything further? All right, well, let me say thank you so much for participating. I found this very interesting, and I hope our viewers will too. Thanks so much to our audience for watching. We really appreciate you. Our motivation for making these videos is to start conversations with other firearms instructors who are training beginners. Please let us know your thoughts. You can do that down in the comments below. Also, if you will, please tell us about your classes and events. And if you liked what you saw, you can always click the like button and consider subscribing to our channel. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you at the range.